Good morning, everybody. John Spielka here for GAI Insights, doing the Gen AI news briefing, reading top news, essential, important, or optional. Lots of things going on today. We've got one of the most interesting ones is Llama taking over OpenAI's position as the best organization in this, but we also have some massive new investments, probably by a combination of Thrive Capital and our friends at Microsoft and Apple. All right, that's some of the news. Let's get at it today. We've got Luda, Paul, and Adam, and Ankaj. Ankaj, if you could give us the first article, please.
Sure, John. So the first one that we have for today comes from Meta, and Meta is saying that Llama has seen 10x growth since 2023 and is a leading engine of AI innovation.
Yeah, what'd you think of this, Adam? Pretty amazing stats, I thought here.
Yeah, if I I would consider starting off our Friday show with a bang and saying potentially this is essential to be paying attention to. It's an open source alternative that offers competitive capabilities. Um, they're 350 million downloads, 20 million downloads in the last month alone. But like it's really so it's essential that our leader is aware of Mark Zuckerberg's strategy in terms of the open source, creating the ecosystem. Right? It says in addition to Amazon Web Services and Microsoft Azure, they partnered with Databricks, Dell, Google Cloud, Grok, NVIDIA, IBM, Scale AI, Snowflake, and others. Right? They're right there with everyone. It's just such a powerful story, and the fact that it is open source, and that Mark Zuckerberg he was interviewed by Jensen at SIGGRAPH, and he was talking about how clearly his strategy is just to build that ecosystem, and it's competitive, and it's worth taking note of. If people are aware that that's happening, this would be important numbers to back it up, but I think it's worth getting on everyone's radar.
Ankash, maybe you can scroll down a little bit to the graph of API usage. Yep, right. Yeah. When I started reading this article, it is certainly, Meta applauding Meta, and it's a little bit of a self-serving. But as I got into this, there's really good data points like this one, and later on they talk about cases of how people are using it, and that is also very important. It's a data intense in a sense, proving the point that they are scaling quite significantly and potentially taking the leadership position. So I was thinking important. I wasn't going essential, but that's other people, their views.
Yeah, I could go for essential because just the sheer volume of it. It's a different strategy. We have Grok in here too, supporting it. Accenture. I think it's super smart on Zuckerberg's part, and these are some real applications, and I think they're a real threat to OpenAI, or at least a competitor. So I would give it essential.
I can back essential.
All right, Paul, we head for essential. That going to work for you?
Oh, absolutely essential. I think two of the benefits of AI is one, it gives them pricing leverage going against the closed models, and two, it fits into this emerging trend that people discussing about own your own intelligence. This is a component of potential solutions.
Yes, yeah. Michael Novak notes, as we have before, that open isn't open all the way, right? This is a model where they do share the weights. They don't share the training data. They certainly don't share the source code. Interesting. But so it should be
And I believe you have to apply. You apply to get this. It's almost like it's free download after approval to get the open download.
Oh, you have to get approved. Interesting. Okay.
I'm next to positive you have to get approved. I've been told twice.
All right. So there we are. Essentials starting off the morning. Ankaj, next.
Okay, the next one comes from Wall Street Journal, and it talks about how Apple and Nvidia are in talks to invest in OpenAI.
Yes, here we have even more money heading into OpenAI on a $100 billion valuation. Talks of two folks that might get the interest of the Justice Department up when you got Apple and Microsoft investing in a market leader in an oligopolistic market. Call me crazy. What do you think here, Paul?
Yeah, I think you can hear me a little better. This is front
Oh,
page
you're
news.
picking up. Come closer to the phone.
Yeah, your audio's awful.
Yes.
Is that any better?
Way
Yeah.
better. Whatever you did, it's way better.
I'm not sure. Just plug it back in. This is front page Wall Street Journal today. I think it's a potential inching of Amazon or OpenAI a little bit away from Microsoft, or certainly Microsoft and NVIDIA and Apple all kind of aiming at Amazon and Google. So essential news, and it continues to show that the revenue must be going through the roof at OpenAI to get a valuation jump from 86 to 100 billion in 6 months. It's just, this thing is on fire. NVIDIA is on fire. OpenAI is on fire, and capital is flowing.
Yeah, interesting. Noria ex-dean of the Harvard Business School is one of the partners at Thrive. So maybe we can talk to Nitin about why they're putting dough in.
And I think Thrive, is it Josh Kushner's, the Trump kids fund? He's got the Saudi money behind him as well.
Interesting. Don't know. All right. So we're giving this what rating here? Important?
Yeah, I would go for important. I'm not sure about essential, Paul, because it's still not done. This is rumors, and yeah, it's coming from Wall Street Journal, but it's still rumor mill.
Fair point, Leah.
All right. So we're going to give this an important. Got Thrive Capital in here, making some big bets. They've it was Joshua Kushner, and looks like they've got some really interesting investors in here. And they've invested in Scale AI, A24, Stripe, Airtable, Glossier, Plaid. They've done an OpenAI, so not so bad. All right, next.
Okay, the next one that we have comes from Honeywell, and it talks about how Honeywell has been using GenAI.
Yes, and Honeywell speaking at our event. It's very interesting. What did you think here, Luda?
Yeah, I thought it is a page and a half, and it's interesting of how Honeywell, it's a very old company, right, is using a Gen AI. And I rate it as important because it's such a clear use case. So they've trained all 95,000 employees in Honeywell in AI. They have 16 or so applications installed in production. They are having people rate, they are having an open, essentially, board of suggesting new applications, and it's being rated and assessed for impact. They're selecting and implementing the top ones. They're using the unstructured data from years back. It's a very fascinating write-up. I think hitting the main points of best practices in how to apply Gen AI. So I rate it as important.
Yeah, I agree. I'm about to send it after we get done this. Paul, the industrial customer I'm thinking of that we should send this to, that the whole thing about getting out there about 1 million pages of, data and, user manuals and the whole routine, being able to interrogate that just makes a ton of sense. So I rate it as important as well. Paul, Adam, you guys okay if we head for the big I on this one?
Maybe it's Friday night, but I would consider this potentially essential, right? They have 16 production use cases already. Yeah. It's a page and a half, and they pack a lot of stories a lot of great examples. It is so incredibly dense. Like it's literally each paragraph in one paragraph, they're talking about the 5,300 M365 Copilot, the 4,500 GitHub, the AI Copilot offering that they brought in from some other third party, the knowledge base they've made across 350,000 pages of product manuals. Like there is so much good stuff going on in there that I could certainly make an argument for why everyone should look at it.
I could go there. Yep.
Yeah, so let me make the case for essentially something. So all that as well. I think two other things here. This is old school company doing it. Second is they're doing top down and bottoms up. So employees are given ideas. And then third thing, we continue to work with AI leaders and trying to understand what are key things to do. And I think one of the things that Sheila's talking, that's what's so excited that she's talking at our conference on day 2, is that she's also out there promoting. She's out there educating, and articles like this do a tremendous amount for their attention and attracting AI talent. And to think you're going to go work on AI projects at Honeywell is not something that a lot of people want to do, but articles like this really help them get their talent pipeline going. So I think she's doing a great job in a whole bunch of dimensions.
And also multi-model, right? Talking with AWS and Google as well as Microsoft.
Yeah, very sophisticated. All right, ahead for Essential. Essential it is. It's funny, Adam, you said, because it's Friday, I call that the pug effect, because I have 5 adult children, and my pugs are hard to train in general. But by the time we got the pugs, I was so out of energy to like discipline anything. It's like they, there's, as long as they go to the bathroom outside, that's about the only thing they know how to do, and they don't always do that. So there you go. So the pug effect may be in effect, but we're going for Essential.
Okay.
The next one comes from McKinsey, and it talks about the Gen AI skills revolution, how companies should think about their talent strategy.
Yes, and in particular, Ankaj talks about how they should think about their talent strategy in software creation, and they start off the article with the notion that 70% of market leaders actually build software into their business in a way that adds value. So this notion of the leaders are technology committed, the majority of top economic performers are technology committed, and that in particular needs to get renovated. Sorry, I don't know about renovated, updated. And what do you think about this one? Let's see, who did I have on this one first? I think we had Paul.
Yeah, I thought we've certainly seen a lot in software. This is continuing a trend we've seen. I thought the article was decent, but I had this as option. We've done a lot of discussion about optional today.
All right, we're heading for the big O, E to O. Luda, what do you think?
I would make a case for important. They started the article talking about process reengineering, thinking in general of the processes. I thought it would be a blah, and then they actually focused on software engineering, but not just software engineering, but in general support of Gen AI throughout the enterprise and the software cycle to do that. So yeah, Ankash, that chart that you showed, I think is good to see. And then they go step by step explaining what is useful and how it can be done. So I thought it might be important for that reason, because it's not for software development per se, it's for taking Gen AI into the IT support teams in a big enterprise, really. And how do you look for talent in that space?
All right, so we're going from O to I. I could support I as well. I think.
Yeah, the one thing I really liked is actually it is a little long, and makes a lot of known observations, but there are some good points. I could support important at the very, very, very bottom. It talks about mentorship as a model, as well as shadowing, and anything that can raise the visibility of the importance of that concept. I can support.
All right. So
It's talent pipeline development from the point of view of how do you accelerate Gen AI introduction in a big enterprise, not IT. So that's, and it's from the talent perspective. Yeah, it's a good article.
All right. Pug effect hits once again. We got the big eye here. All right.
Okay.
Next, Ankash.
The next one talks about a hedge fund and how they are using Gen AI to develop an equivalent of a senior analyst at their fund.
Yeah, short little article here about Belyasny. I'm not familiar with Belyasny, but they want to put an analyst in a box here. So, what did you think about this one, Adam?
So for anyone who's been paying attention on the ratings so far tonight, we've finally done it because I think we've got an EIEIO.
Oh, perfect.
I'm gonna give this an optional, and look, it's an interesting use case. It's a great use case. It's a singular use case in one company. I don't think it's worth the read, but yeah.
All righty. So we're giving this an O. It's kind of what my grandmother used to call a lick and a promise in terms of an article.
Yes, agree.
All right. Oh, it is. Next, Ankash.
The next one is from The Verge, and it talks about how OpenAI and Anthropic will share their models with the US government.
Yeah, I think this is so interesting. What the strategy of, the White House, as they're putting more regulation here, trying to get these folks to actually, get a look at the models, and then these two folks agreeing to it, I thought was very interesting. Yeah, I mean, what do you think here, Luda?
I was between optional and important. Optional because, and what is AI leader going to do with this? But for awareness purposes, maybe important. It's very interesting. I agree with you, John, that this is happening, and this is the way to do it, to actually get the government comfortable and suggesting recommendations of how to adjust things, and these companies working with the government to make sure that they're integrated into their development strategies. This is the way to do it, really, this cooperation. So I think from that perspective, it's super interesting that they're doing it.
So from a political and regulatory perspective, you think it makes a lot of sense?
Yeah, I would rate it as optional for our leaders, but what do you think?
Optional. I'm leaning more toward important. I think it's a kind of a breakthrough, and when you start thinking about who's going to have a leg up, like let's say you're working in a regulated industry. I mean, you want the government, you're a bank, you're JP Morgan Chase or whatever. It's going to make a difference if the model vendor, gives the government. We'll see what kind of indemnity or whatever risk reduction the government might give them, but I got to believe in a court of law. If you said, "Hey, we showed it to the regulators and they didn't say anything," that's got to be helpful.
Well, and I think it also fits in, John. I know we've been doing some planning on a potential event in Davos and on your own intelligence. We have September 11th webinar coming on that. But what this means from a sovereign country standpoint, I think is really going to be a discussion point in the next 12 to 18 months. Does Canada have access to it? Does Germany have access to it? Are we now having what is our industrial policy at a G7 level on this? Does Saudi Arabia get it? Does China get it? So there's a whole bunch of different vectors on decisions, policies that are wide open.
So it sounds like you're headed toward essential.
I'm on essential. I think we need to keep starting this conversation on own your own intelligence at multiple levels, because momentum's very clear where it's going in my mind, and this fits right into it. And global companies need to understand it. I mean, John, you and I've been involved in 3 or 4 very large companies here, and it's definitely on the radar.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know. I mean, if I was still back at PwC, this would be absolutely essential in terms of their regulatory and risk folks. I mean, this is, they do a fantastic job, as do a bunch of the big 4, in predicting, kind of really analyzing and predicting possible future regulatory regimes. And this would be top of the house.
I can see how it's going to open a lot of doors in terms of companies who are willing to start doing business with them, frankly. in terms of the credibility and the security that it offers. What's also interesting, I'll note though, is that there's a bit of a standoff right now amongst all the major models. No one's sort of taking that next leap, and many people thought it would be Sonnet 3.5 Opus, right? Claude 3.5 Opus, right? Because Sonnet, which is the one that's right up there at the top, is actually their middle model in this 3.5 version. And now, quite conveniently, it's going to be delayed, of course, because they have to go into regulatory talks. OpenAI as well doesn't have to release a new model anytime soon, right? Because they're going to play it safe and go slow, and so they can kind of wait now and sort of stave off the demand for them to release new product, which is very convenient, if they're wanting to see what other people are bringing to market and what they're trying to compete with.
Yeah, very interesting.
That's a bit of a cynical perspective, but it's part of what's at play here. Yeah,
big dollars at play here. All right, so we're going to give this baby an essential, and as Michael Novak has noted that this is part of a regulatory framework. It's not legislation, and then we have participation by a number of different entities. But I think this voluntary sharing is very interesting. It's going to lead to new dynamics. All right, last one here, Ankash.
They're going essential, right?
Going essential. Yep.
Okay.
The last one that we have for today comes from Magic, and they are talking about 100 million token context windows.
All right, Adam, take us home here. 100 million token context windows.
Yeah, it's a lot, and what it offers them is really speed and cost reductions, and it's a way to compete. I don't know. I mean, they're saying this article is fairly technical and gets pretty deep into why their sauce is so special. So I would be hesitant to suggest it to someone. It's kind of a new competitor in a pretty crowded market. So I was leaning towards optional.
Yeah, it's specifically for software development. And their argument is, which is true, is to put all of the code, documentation, related information, everything and its kitchen and the kitchen sink into that window. And granted, if the model has all of that information, it will certainly do much better. And as a result, they show good results. But this is a sort of obvious point, really. If you have all of it together, you'll do better. Yep. And it is very technical, to Adam's point. So probably optional.
All right, you're going optional. I'm hearing important in terms of,
Yeah, it makes a point. The bigger window for software development is actually almost critical to get it right.
Yeah, I mean, we gotta assume our AI leader at least can, play a technical person on TV. I would think, right? If they can't actually do the work. All right, I'm leaning toward important. Paul, you okay with important on this one?
Did we lose Paul? I think we lost him.
Yeah.
All righty. All right.
Let's ask Ankash, since he can.
Ankash, what do you think? Important?
Yes, John, I think this is important from a software development perspective, because you need longer context windows to accurately do that.
Gotcha. All right. So
I think this is the first.
A lot of reading for the weekend here.
We have 3 essentials, 3 important, and 1 optional.
All right. Big reading day. Lot of news going down. All right. So we have 10x growth. We have Honeywell, amazing. And we have OpenAI, Anthropic in terms of their approach to the U.S. government, setting off a new set of strategies in terms of influencing the regulatory framework and future regulation. And then we have a number of importance with Apple and NVIDIA's investment, Gen AI skills revolution, and then the 100 million token context window. Only 1 optional with the little teeny case study that didn't tell us much. Okay. All right. With that, anything else? Ankash, Adam, Luda, Maria?
No, other than happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Yes.
Oh, I know. I know the Learning Lab next week. We're cooking up something with Chris Brock. He's always fun to have around, and it'll be exciting to have him on the show again.
Excellent.
I'm
So
not sure exactly what he'll be doing, but I'm looking forward to it already. Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, Chris is a kind of a mega influencer, especially his Facebook audience is over 250,000 people. Really useful in terms of understanding how you use generative AI in general, but especially in marketing and branding. So and always a thoughtful and impactful speaker. So have a great weekend, everybody, and we will see you all on Monday in September. Bye bye now.